This is J. Krishnamurti's third public discussion in Saanen, 1972.
What shall we this morning talk over together? The question is, he wants to inquire into the whole structure of the me, the I, and see if it is possible to put an end to it. Do you want to discuss anything else? Je n'ai pas compris un mot, madame. Pas un mot.
Je voudrais poser une question qui se réfère à la conférence d'hier.
Bien.
Et l'autre.
Oui, qui serait complémentaire pour la conférence d'hier et qui aiderait à la compréhension de ce que vous avez déjà dit. Ultérieurement, si on avait compris, on devait enseigner. Est-ce que enseigner, est-ce que c'est exact? Et est-ce que c'est simplement en étant, ou si c'est par la parole, les écrits, comme vous faites?
Est-ce que vous avez compris?
Oui. Si les gens qui viennent vous écouter ici ont compris ce que vous dites alors vous devez enseigner. Est-ce qu'ils doivent enseigner par leur attitude dans la vie ou aussi parler comme vous le faites?
Have you understood the question? From what you said yesterday and the previous talks, as far as I understand the question, is it an attitude towards life or accept what you are?
Non.
Anglais, français, je vous en prie.
En français. Si je comprends ce que vous dites,
Eh bien.
j'entends ici dans la table. Vous dites, une fois que j'ai compris, il faut que j'enseigne aux autres.
Ah,
Faut-il que je l'enseigne par mon attitude ou que je
ah,
parle?
bien. You said the other day that observing what is happening in the world around us and also what is happening inwardly and understanding it, having a deep insight into it. From what you said, should one go out and teach or just live? You have understood the question? I'm not quite sure I understand it yet.
She's asking whether one can teach what he has understood through his own being or through words and...
Yes, sir, the same thing. I wonder if that's a problem. As we said yesterday, surely what we have been talking about from this platform for the last 10 meetings surely it's much more important, isn't it, that you understand and live and act in a totally different way to bring about a psychological revolution in yourself through your own observation, and from that revolution, various kinds of social activity and all the rest of it will take place. It's your life you're concerned with, not with what I'm talking about. Right? I made that quite clear from the beginning, that we are concerned, aren't we, with transforming our own life, the life that we lead, the petty, narrow, stupid life of business, you know, the whole thing, money-making, only be concerned with that, or be an artist, only concerned with that, and or a so-called religious person, only be concerned with that, what he concerns is a religious life, and so on. Surely it's much more important to understand what is happening outwardly and inwardly, and from there act. Because it's yours, nobody else's there. But if you are trying to merely understand what the speaker is saying, then you're trying to understand what he is talking about, not your own life. But if you deeply, seriously go into your own life, into your own activities, into your own thought processes, then you and I will meet. It will be the same. I think that we made it clear. Now, what shall we discuss this morning?
How does one, or is it possible for one to bridge the gap between individual relating, which seems so superficial, and human relating?
How is one to bridge the gap between the individual life, which is so superficial and so narrow, to the vast, complex entity, life that's going on around one? Is that the question, sir? The human life. Is that what you want to discuss? Vous parlez français, monsieur? Bien, parlez français. Bien, j'ai compris. Bien. Bien. When I observe myself, I see the observer is absent. And to remain in that state, you require a lot of energy, a great deal of vitality. But at other times, the image comes into being and so destroys that which has been perceived. Bien, c'est ça, n'est-ce pas? Now, is that what you want to discuss, all of us?
Do I do the right thing to try to concentrate the energy to make that image disappear, that thought disappear, by watching the thoughts?
Is this the question, sir? I'll put it fairly simply if I can. When you observe the mountains, the trees, the river, or oneself, when you give sufficient attention, and therefore energy, the observer, with all its conditioning, with its past, is absent. And can one maintain that? Can one sustain that sense of total attention continuously? Is that the question? Bien. Shall we discuss that? What do you mean by attention? Let's begin with that. And what do you mean by giving total attention? What do you mean, sirs? When you attend, what is involved in that? One, sirs. Help me, please. Sir, now, just let's begin very slowly. Question has been put, which is, when there is total attention, there is no division as the observer. There is only observation. When I look at that mountain with a snow cap, completely, with all my energy, interest, vitality, intensity, then the past as the observer, with all its content as the word, conditioning, is not. Right? Now, what is that attention? Is it brought about through practice? You understand? The repetition. Following a particular system, a method. Will that bring about attention? What do you say? Why? Why do you think a practice, a method, a discipline, a continuous, you follow? Mechanical repetition, will that bring about attention?
Because such an attention comes spontaneously or doesn't come sometimes.
What, sir?
It comes sometimes spontaneously or does not come. It cannot be brought.
Is it a matter of chance, or is it a matter of insight, perception? You understand my? Is it a matter of chance, as the gentleman points out, or you give total attention in which there is complete insight into what you're observing? You understand? Let me look, sir. You are listening to what the speaker is saying. How are you listening? Are you giving total attention? Or the part of you listening to the noise of the river Part of you saying, I must pay attention to what he's saying. Part of you trying to translate what he is saying according to your own understanding. Interpreting, explaining, judging. All that indicates lack of attention, surely. Right? Which is it you're doing? When you look at a tree, do you look with total attention or only give a very, very partial, passing interest? When you look at that blue sky, do you see the vast space or only a color, which is rather beautiful morning, isn't it? And pass on. Which is it you do? Oh, come on, sir. Ah, attendez. Pardon. Wait. He says, the moment we answer that question, we are not attentive. I'm not asking you to answer that question. I'm asking whether you are attentive, which you can answer for yourself. Now, how do we go about this? It's really quite interesting if we can go into this. Look, sir, let us take something which is much nearer. Most of us have fears, right? Of various kinds. Now, unless you comprehend the whole structure and the nature of fear, it will go on. Right? Now, can you investigate into the whole structure of fear attentively? Investigate in the sense, observe the nature of fear. Shall we go into that? Would that be of interest? Because I think most people have fears of some kind or another. Haven't you? No? I'm so glad. Now, what is fear? Now, we are non-analytically observing. Non-analytically. Analysis means to break up. The meaning of that word means to break up. We are not trying to break up what fear into various causes and how to get rid of them, but merely watching the whole nature of fear. Right? Have I explained what I mean? Look, I am frightened. Consciously and unconsciously, deeply and frightened of superficial things. I know, I'm aware of that. Nobody has to tell me that I'm frightened. Right? May we proceed? We are sharing this together. We are investigating this together. We are being aware of the whole nature of fear together. We are sharing it. So don't sit there and let me go on talking. We are moving together, right? Now I say to myself, what is the cause of fear? Why am I frightened? Which is an investigation into the cause, therefore an analytical process, right? Aren't you frightened of something? Oh, you don't know what you're frightened of? Losing a job? Not having money? Investigate it, so look at it, don't say no right off. Fear of death? Not coming up to the ideal which you have set up for yourself? You have measured yourself against another, and you feel that you cannot completely fulfill, completely reach that point. Or you are frightened of what others say. You are frightened of your wife or your husband or somebody. Don't you know all these things? Huh? This is a common thing, isn't it? So we are talking this over together. It's a dialogue, conversation. You don't have to sit quiet and let me go on talking. I did that last 2 weeks. Now we are trying to meet each other and try to find out the nature of fear and to see if the mind can go beyond it.
I think that we're all afraid, we all have something that we want to ask, but we're all afraid to talk.
Yes, we have some kind of fear.
I think that the reason why we're afraid is we're afraid of the unknown. We're afraid what the other person's going to think or what's going to happen in the future.
We are frightened of the unknown, whether it's in the distant future or in the immediate. I don't know what you're going to say. I don't know, you might hurt me, and so on, so on. There is fear, right?
I'm shaking from just saying that.
What?
I'm shaking from just saying that.
You are?
I'm shaking from just saying that.
How is one aware of this fear? Why do you call it fear? You see, you're not following this. You're sitting there like, I'm no contact with you. Now, what is your reaction? There's physical reaction. I know all that stuff. You sweat. You get nervous. You kind of tighten up. Proceed further. Don't stick at the obvious. Go on. It has happened before. You recognize it. Proceed further, sir. Go into it. Go on. Move.
I know that I'm afraid often because I feel a compulsion to escape in various ways, in various kinds of pleasures or pursuits. And the compulsion seems to prove that I'm running away.
That means you want to conquer it, or run away from it, because you don't know what to do with it. Is that it? One doesn't know what to do with fear. Therefore, one runs away, one explains it away, or one tries to control it, suppress it, develop its opposite, which is courage. right? We go through all those processes, don't we? But yet fear remains.
It seems to remain because I'm not aware that I am free myself.
No,
I'm not
we... I think this is very important to understand this, because fear is a destructive thing. It blinds you, both physically and psychologically. So one has to go into it very, very deeply, right? Understand the conscious as well as the unconscious fears, right, sir?
Is it possible that many times when one tries to face fear, what one actually does is uses one's mind to look at it, and then this thought comes to a new path, so one pushes it away. So the thought is there more than total awareness.
Yes, sir. Look,
I think 2 points. One, that where fear is being passed on to us, and we've accepted it. But I think basically it's because of the duality of we hold of being and non-being. And this is basically at the root of every fear.
yes, sir. But you still, at the end of it, you have fear, haven't you? After giving me that explanation, there is fear still.
Yes, but perhaps not when I'm in this tent. You suggested this possibility.
Look, sir, I am afraid of various things. Public opinion, what you might say to me. I am afraid of death, the unknown. I am afraid of losing my job. I am afraid that next year you won't all turn up. I am afraid that I might get ill. I've got dozens of fears. I am as good as you at explaining why fears comes into being. I want to find out how to be free of it, how to go beyond it. That's all my concern. I have no other concern. I don't want explanations. I don't want a verbal description of my fears. And I see how dreadful, how calamitous, how destructive fear is. Now I'm asking myself, how is it possible to go beyond it? That's my whole concern, you understand? That's all I'm interested in. I'm giving my total attention to it. Because it's a crisis in my life. Because I see how it perverts every activity, how neurotic I become, how in comparison with somebody I further this fear. So my concern, my interest is, I'm asking, can the mind, this mind, be totally free of fear, and whenever fear arises in the future, to meet it totally. You understand? That's all I'm concerned, and nothing else. Are you? I understand, madam. But I don't know how to give that's again, if you give your total attention to fear, then you are not afraid. But I don't give total attention. Yes, sir, I'm doing the same thing in different ways.
Why?
What?
Why?
Why? Because the gentleman raised a question, how am I to maintain a continuous total attention? To him, that was a problem.
Was his problem fear or attention?
I'm sure both are involved in attention.
Fear is involved in attention.
Obviously, if I am deeply unconsciously frightened, I can't give attention.
If you're angry, you can't give attention.
Obviously.
And if you're in love, you can't give attention.
Wait a minute. You are moving. If you are in love, what does that phrase mean? I am only taking one thing at a time, which is we discussed the other day anger, jealousy. And I'm saying today that wherever there is any form of fear, conscious or unconscious, attention is not possible. Don't expand that more, sir, by saying if you are in love or if you are lame or if you are, and so on, so on.
Sir, if we, like yesterday we went into anger, today we go into fear, are we performing analysis, or by going into one, are we in reality going into all of them?
Sir, aren't you frightened? Isn't there fear in you? God, what's the matter with all of you? No?
Sir, the other day we paid attention to anger, and we came to a point where anger or confusion, whatever it was gone. Now, the attention has turned upon itself and said, how can I maintain myself?
Yes.
A new division has come in. Attention, which was, I don't know how to put it, pure the other day, has now split itself and looked at itself.
Sir, he's saying, sir, listen to his question. He says, I can give total attention, but I can't maintain it. Wait, sir. How am I to do it? I have a feeling that it's a marvelous thing if I could give a total attention to everything I'm doing.
Right. And now the attention has turned upon itself. Attention is now the product of thought. It is not pure attention.
That's what we're pointing out, sir. Quite right. So, attention gave him pleasure, or rather, in that state of attention, there was nothing. There was attending. Then, thought comes in and says that was a marvelous state. I like to have more of it, a continuous momentum of it, which has that attention by thought has made that attention into a pleasurable thing which must be continued. That's all.
It doesn't seem quite that way to me. The other day, I had a certain insight into fear. I saw that I was afraid, and I saw that I was in fear, not as
Quite.
But it was only for a flash, and I wanted to learn more about my fear, but it wasn't enough. The attention wasn't long enough so that I could learn enough.
Now, all right, sir, I won't discuss fear. All right. Is it possible to maintain continuously attention? That's the question he asked. Now, why do you want to maintain it? Wait. In order to learn, you want to maintain attention. Is that it?
Because when I'm not attentive anymore, I am aware of a flow of thoughts which distract me from looking.
Yes. When I am not attentive, the whole momentum of thought comes into being, and there is a division, right, between the thinker and attention. Now, please just listen. We have all understood this question now. How is one to maintain attention? Right? Can you maintain it? What is involved in that statement, which is to maintain, to sustain continuously attention? That involves time, doesn't it? Right? Please. Right, sir? I have been attentive now for a few minutes and it's gone, but I would like that attention to last, to go on. Now, when you are attentive, is there any question of time? No. Right? Then why are you asking that you must have time to be attentive, or must have time must be given for its duration? You understand? When you are attentive, there is no time, right? Then who is asking that it must last a long time? Mais écoutez, il demande, he says, either there is attention or there is no attention. But he is asking, when there is attention, there is no time. He says that. But at the same time he says, I wish I could continue in that state of attention. That's his problem. That's what I'm pointing out. When you are attentive, there is no time, there is no wanting for it to continue. Thought doesn't come into being. When you are not attentive, the whole process begins. Thought, time, wish, will, all the rest of it begins. Now, why aren't you merely attentive at that one moment? That's enough. Why do you want to have more of it?
Okay, because most people have moments of attention, flashes of attention, and then the rest of the time, they're inattentive and they're in conflict. And those flashes for just a moment, for just a second, once a week, is not enough to transform your life. You go on in the same old way. So therefore, when they ask, can't one be attentive longer or more?
I see the questioner says, at the moment of attention, there is a sense of vast change. But that doesn't last. And one falls back into the old rut, into the old routine, into the old habits. And therefore, there is no change in life, in one's ways of living. Now, what are you concerned with? Attention, or with bringing about a revolution in your life, psychologically? Which are you concerned with?
Obviously, psychological revolution.
Huh?
obviously psychological revolution.
Are you? Are you? Huh?
I would like to.
Ah, you would like to have. That's a lovely thing. Which is important, sir? Attention or psychological revolution?
Are they not too connected, interconnected?
I don't know.
I do feel it.
But, sir, are you really concerned with psychological revolution deeply? Will you give your life to it? Or is it just a theory? So you want to give your life, your energy, your whole being into bringing about a psychological change? Are you, sir? Huh? Do you know what it means to give your life to the wanting to give your life, your attention, your love, your energy, your whole life to find out if you can change yourself radically? Do you want to do that? Or do you say, if I have attention, then this will happen? You understand? I have had attention at rare moments, and it's marvelous. If I had that attention, then it will bring about a deep psychological change. So, your concern is to have this attention. Please listen, not the bringing about a psychological revolution in yourself. What?
That would be an idea.
Yes, that would be an ideal.
Ma implicitamente, come è stato impostato il discorso, l'attenzione era un mezzo per arrivare all'abolizione della paura.
Bene. You see how they're all very clever, these birds. What he's saying is, if I have that attention, then I will change psychologically.
No, avevamo cominciato con la paura e siamo arrivati all'attenzione come una necessità per cancellare la paura.
If I have attention, if there is that state of attention, then I can cancel with that attention fear. You see, what is important? Attention or fear? Huh? Yes? Look, I'm going to show you something. You say attention is important and not fear, not the psychological revolution. Right? Because you think through attention you will bring about this revolution inside. Right? You don't know anything about attention. It happens very rarely. Occasionally it bursts, but it soon goes away. But the constant thing is your daily miserable, suffering, petty life. That is important, not attention. Right? If you want attention, then as it has been pointed out, it becomes an ideal. And then you have to fight for it, seek a method to achieve it, and all the rest of it. So, I am not concerned with attention. To me, that's nothing. Sorry. There is no value because my life is ugly, petty, narrow, stupid, jealous, fear, frightened, competitive, and all the rest of it. pretension. Now, in understanding that, the very nature of understanding it is attention. I don't have to seek attention.
With a degree of fear, but with the possibility of regret in the train, can I suggest that it is the attention that prevents the psychological revolution? I don't know, am I?
I don't understand your question, sir.
Is it the attention that prevents the psychological revolution?
Is it attention that prevents psychological revolution? If you are seeking and making attention into an ideal, then it is preventing psychological revolution. My golly, you people. You won't let go attention, will you? You are so attached to that word, because perhaps I've talked a great deal about it. But that's not important. Please, sir, just listen. I am concerned with the world, what's happening in the world, the wars, the brutality, the appalling things are going on, the ugly things of the politicians. And from there, I see what I am, right? I am the world. You understand, sir? You don't feel that, do you? I am the world. Because I have created this monster. No? So obvious. Right. And without a radical revolution in myself, I can't do a thing in the outside. So my concern is it possible to bring about this deep revolution in myself? That's all my concern, not how to be aware. Wait. No. Find out if you can change. And then see what is implied in this revolution. Écoutez, vous savez, look, I am saying, sir, I have no attention. I don't know what it means. But I do know, and I can go into my sorrow, my competitiveness, my violence, not into something I don't know. Isn't it? The questioners ask, do you mean really that all those people who are in this tent are responsible for what is happening in the world? Aren't you?
We are sharing this responsibility.
What, sir?
We are sharing this responsibility.
Yes, but first of all, aren't you responsible? I don't say it is wrong. Responsible. I am the world.
But if I condemn the world,
I don't condemn the world.
then how can I act if I
Who is this I which is the world?
Now we're off. Huh?
If there's an I, well, I. There's a word.
That is only, the I is only a means of communication. When I say I am the world, the I is the world. The world and the I are not different. They are one.
The word is energy, and elementally, basic element is energy, and love and hate and everything is energy. And if I could focus just on this energy, my attention goes to energy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You see, we are going off always from the central issue. If I had that energy, if I had that attention, if I could see clearly, tell me what, you follow? Out there, you don't face the fact, what you are. What, sir? Shall we, look, please, let us for once and for all drop attention, shall we? If I had that energy, that interest, that vitality, I would do this. That's sheer speculation. Oh, no, that's sure. Un momento, signore. I have said on previous occasions, don't bother about attention, be aware of inattention, right? If you are aware of your inattention, there is attention, that's all. But that is not the problem. God, how you refuse to face this thing. Yes.
At that point, when you ask that, the reaction to it then is one, then immediately afterwards, then all this, they go, I can't do that.
Yes, yes, yes.
And then you say, well, what I think is I'm just projecting what I think psychological revolution.
Right, sir. Look, sir. Let's forget the ifs, the attention, the ideals. Now take one thing which is common to all of us and go through right to the end of it and see if the mind can be free of it. You follow? Nothing else. Now, I'm going to take one thing, which is we all live in comparison, don't we? We're always comparing, aren't we? No? Both outwardly and inwardly, right? And this comparison breeds in me not only fear, the sense of inferiority, the sense of wanting to be like him, imitation, conformity, acceptance, depending on what I think is much better than what is, right? Shall we take that one thing and go to the very... And at the end of it, see that your mind is completely free from all comparison. You understand my question? Have you understood my question? Shall we go into it?
But it's not a question. You just have to be free.
What, sir?
This is not a question. It is a fact that you have to be free.
Right. That's
And I call that
That's right, sir. Why does my mind, your mind, compare? Look at it, sir. Boy. Is it from childhood we have been taught to compare? That's one factor. All our social structure is based on that too. Our religious, environmental is based on that. You are nothing, you must be like a saint, you follow? This whole business is based on comparison, right? No, madam, take one thing. You do compare, don't you, yourself with another? Now look at it and find out why this momentum exists in you. This constant measurement, not only with somebody outside of you, but also the measurement that you have established according to your memory, the past. So you're always measuring, comparing, conforming. Right? Are you aware of it? Right? Now, wait a minute, just hold on a minute. If you are aware of it, what do you mean by that word aware? Just the word. Don't say it should be, it must not be. But what do you mean by being aware? I am aware that I am comparing.
I saw it a quarter of a second.
Huh?
I saw it. J'ai vu un quart de seconde.
I see that I compare for a second.
So it may be that I don't get pleasure enough, so I think I will look at it and get more pleasure.
Is that it, that you don't look at this measurement of yourself, because if it gave you a lot of pleasure, you would look at it longer? That's what the questioner says. Can you look at it, sir? Do you know you are measuring yourself all the time? I must be, I will become, I should not, I have been happy. You follow measure. Now can you look at it? Which is a fact. I am looking at that microphone and I look at it. Now, when you look at it, what takes place? Go on, sir. You find excuses for comparing. We don't want to look at it. What are you going to do with such a... Huh? Go on, sir. What shall I do? I know I'm comparing. My life, my education, the culture in which I've been born, all bring about or shape the mind, the brain, everything, to compare myself with others, or compare myself with what I have been. Right? Compare in the present, in the future, and in the past. And when I am aware of it, I find excuses for it. Right? Why shouldn't I compare? What's wrong with comparison? All the world compares. And then I condemn it. How terrible to compare myself. Why can't I be myself? I won't compare anymore. Right? You say, you won't compare yourself anymore because you say, I'll be myself. Right? Then you say, what is yourself? You're following all this? I won't compare, I will not compare, I'll be myself. Then you say, who is yourself? What is myself? Go on, sir. Myself is this comparison. Right? No? If you don't compare, what takes place? You're not yourself. There's something else. Right? Oh, come on. Is that clear? Now, are you like that? That you say, I have lived a life of comparison. Scholar, becoming a scholar, professor, and all the rest, comparing. And you justify it, because everybody is doing the idiotic thing. And you're also being an idiot, not you, me. I'm also an idiot, so I follow. Now I realize that. Then I say to myself, but I'm comparing myself with what I was yesterday. I was so happy yesterday. I had no problems yesterday. It was such a lovely time yesterday. So, you look at that, and again go through the process of, I must keep some of that and relinquish the others. So you are constantly in battle, right? Between the past, the future, and what you think is right in comparing yourself. All that is based on comparison, right? And then you say, I'll be myself. I don't care a pin for others, I'll be myself. I'll identify myself. What is yourself? Yourself is part of this momentum of comparison. Now, when you don't compare, what takes place? Huh? You are not yourself. That's right, that's what we are saying. Now, please just listen. When you don't compare and when you don't say, I'll be myself, what takes place in the mind?
There's a sense of detachment.
Huh?
There's a sense of detachment.
Oh, no. You see.
From what I was comparing.
The gentleman says there's a sense of detachment. Detachment from what?
From previous comparison. I stand above. I let it be.
Is detachment freedom? We are talking, sir, about, first we are talking about comparison. Then we are saying, I'll be myself. When it is pointed out that yourself is the momentum of this comparison, comparative values and so on, then there is no detachment. I say, what takes place when you are not comparing, when you are not being, when you say, I will be myself, and then all that's pushed aside, what takes place in your mind?
There's attention to what is.
Huh?
Attention to what is.
Attention to what is. I don't know what that attention is. I'm going to cry presently. Huh? You are? What are you experiencing? Is it so easy to say there is no I? Because I've just learned from another. Wait a minute, madam. I've just learned from another this whole momentum of comparison. And therefore I say I'm no longer, there is no me. Who is saying there is no me? I want to find out what happens to my mind when there is no comparison at all. And I don't say I will be myself. All that's part of comparison. What takes place there?
This is just the psychological revolution we were talking about before.
Psychological revolution of which you are talking about. I want to find out for myself what happens when there is no comparison. Wait, just listen quietly 2 minutes, please. Just take 2 minutes to look at it. Right? The mind is free of one burden. Isn't it? It says, the thing which I've carried about all my life, I put it aside. That, you follow? So the mind, by examining, observing, being aware what the content of comparison implies, suddenly realizes the futility of it, the stupidity of it, the utter unintelligence of it. Therefore the mind has become intelligent. Just a minute.
Before when you spoke about comparison, I saw this in myself, and I realized the comparison by sort of not pushing it away, but embracing it, going towards it, being it, I am it, and then it disappeared.
So, by looking at comparison, I have an insight into comparison, haven't I? I have an insight. I see it has no value, it has no meaning. The seeing is the intelligence. That's all. Now, I want to have an insight into fear, into attachment. So I don't condemn it. I don't say I must be free of it. I just look at it. I want to learn about it. Therefore, when I want to learn, I'm curious. I don't say I must have no fear, I must go beyond it. Fear is this and fear is that. I want to look at it. Therefore, when I look at it with that curiosity, with that affection, I begin to see things very clearly. Therefore, the mind, unburdening itself of something it had carried for years and years, is free of it. Now, are you free of this comparison? No. Why not? You always want to do something about it. We have said don't do it. We've been through all that. The gentleman says, I really don't understand what you're talking about. Let's go into it again. There is comparison, just a minute, sir. There is comparison between two things, right? When I choose between this cloth or that cloth, between this car and that car, right? Between, I don't know, physical things, between material things, there must be comparison. We are talking about psychological comparisons, psychological measurements. Psychological measurements comes into being when thought says, you are much better than I am. You look so much more beautiful than I am. You are clever, I am dull. So I compare myself with you and I have made myself into being dull. Right? Am I dull if I don't compare? I don't know. So I won't call myself dull anymore. You follow? So is your mind, after listening to this for half an hour, free of comparison? Find out, not yes, no, it should be, it should not be. Just find out. And if it isn't, why isn't it? Is it because through comparison, ambition takes root? And ambition is part of a social structure, religious, all the rest of it. So I compare myself with somebody who is great or successful, has bigger car and all the rest of it, because it gives me energy in my drive to be like a go beyond, which is ambition. Is that why you cling to comparison? Because in that there's great pleasure. So when you don't compare, there is no ambition. Which doesn't mean you become a vegetable. Or you accept things as they are. On the contrary. Now, are you like that? That when you see something true, you have dropped it.
Same instant that I'm understanding it. I'm looking at you on stage.
Oh, we are free?
Yes. When we are...
Oh no, don't let's go back to that.
Listen, I want to ask you something because I've heard thousands and thousands of people for years talking. And this is a very vital question.
It is.
When I talk to you,
I-
I'm asking, I identify myself with the conditioning, don't I? Because I have to work my intellect to put it across to you.
So you are saying, madam, that I am basically free. We are basically free. We are basically God. Wait, it comes to the same thing. We are basically beautiful. You know, when you say free, all these things are implied. Not just free, there may no meaning.
Is that what God said?
What?
God, freedom, and
No. These things are implied when you say I'm free. You say you are free, basically. In Asia, they say basically they have the elements of God, Atman and all the rest of it. You follow? I don't accept anything. I don't know.
you're misunderstanding me terribly. What I mean is in the instant when I look into myself and I don't identify myself with my intellect, in that second I am free. That's what I meant. I'm not talking about
If you don't identify yourself with your intellect, you are free.
with the mind.
With the mind.
No, listen, Krishna, I'm trying to ask you something which is very important.
I understand, madam.
I'm very unhappy when I listen to all of us and I feel it in myself. And I'm trying to explain that I cannot.
What is that? What are you trying to explain?
I think this is if we go on saying things, we go on and on, getting more and more concepts. But if I look really at the thing in myself, it's not.
That's what, madam, that's what we are trying to do.
Yes, when look, you explained it very clearly. But when you look into yourself, when you are not identifying, comparing, you are free.
When you are not identifying yourself, you are free. Then a question arises, why does the mind identify? Why do you identify yourself with your furniture, with your house, with your belief? Why do you identify? Is it a habit? If it is a habit, seeing it is a habit, drop it. Why don't you? What?
What I mean is, if I say I'm identifying, I am identifying. But if I'm not, I'm free. That instant, I'm completely free.
At the instant,
I look at the picture and I say, I've come here and I've seen Krishnamurti for 10 years, and look.
I'm so sorry.
Saanen and he's not there.
What am I to do?
And I'm very unhappy because Krishnamurti is not there. And I feel deep sorrow because he's not there. Well, what can I do about it? I can't bring you there. So I get I'm there and I see the same scenery and you're not there.
Look, madam, you've stated two things, or one basic thing, which is don't identify. Then there is freedom. That's the basic thing. Don't identify. But all the time I am identifying myself with something. All the time I am not identifying. So some of the time I am identifying, at other times I am not identifying. The times I identify, when it becomes very important, I identify. When things I don't identify because they have no importance. So I'm playing this game all my life. Now I say to myself, why does the mind identify itself with something? With my country, with my God, all the rest of it. Why? It's not only an intellectual question, but that if I put that question to myself, it brings about an awareness why I identify myself. Why do you identify yourself?
Because without identification, there's no mind.
I want the futility of ego.
No. What would happen if you don't identify yourself?
How can I answer that question?
Wait. I'll show it to you, sir. Don't be so quick. I have identified myself with my books, with my whatever it is, family and all the rest of it. Country, belief, also. Now, first of all, in asking myself why I identify, I am not looking for the cause of identification, but by putting that question, there is not only the intellect operating, but also my emotional nature comes say, why am I doing this? Which is an awareness. You follow? Which is a total awareness, both intellectual understanding and all my emotional, my feelings enter into it. Why do I do this?
Sir, is it because you're seeking a relative reality? A reality that is relevant?
I don't know anything about reality or relevant. Why do I identify myself with something?
Security.
You say it is security. Pleasure. You see, look at it. Please go into it. See the answers. Security, pleasure. If you had pain, you wouldn't identify yourself with it. If somebody kicked me, I wouldn't identify myself with him. But I would identify myself with somebody who gives me great pleasure. So, watch it, sir. Go into it. I identify myself because it gives me pleasure, gives me security, makes me feel certain, gives me comfort, satisfaction, and so on. And I don't identify with anything that is uncomfortable, not pleasurable. That's a simple fact, isn't it?
Sir, we identify and compare with ideas. And if we see that ideas aren't very important, what's the content between the ideas? What's the content between ideas? The content that holds ideas together?
Sir, just a minute, sir. How can I answer that question when you are discussing this? So I see this, that identification takes place when there is pleasure. Pleasure is involved in security and all the rest of it. And there is no identification when there is pain. The one I want, the other I don't want. What? Wait, it may be the same thing. So first, now what am I to do? What is my mind to do when it has been trained, when it has been educated, when it has been brought up in a culture which says identify with everything that's pleasurable, that which is rewarding, and don't discard everything that gives you pain. Now what am I to do? Go on, sir. This is your problem. The more you identify with the things that give you pleasure, the more you are attached to it. Your beliefs, you follow? Because it gives you pleasure. It gives you a sense of stability, security, as though gives you a sense of that you are living. The other does not. Now, do you see this? Do you see it intellectually, therefore verbally, or as a fact? Then if it is a fact, what takes place? Are you getting tired? What's the time, please? Midi. More. We'll stop in 5 minutes. What takes place if I see the meaning of identification? And therefore, attachment. Then are you attached, identified with something, attached to something? I am attached to my wife, or I am attached to my house, or I am attached to a belief. Because the beliefs gives me pleasure. The house gives me pleasure, though a lot of pain involved in it, insurance and all the rest of it. And also, I am attached to a person, because that person gives me pleasure, comfort, flatters me, occasionally nags me. You follow? All that. But I put up with it, because pleasure is greater. So I'm attached to things, people, and ideas. That's clear. And I see where there is attachment, identification, there must be also pain. I must lose my property. I might lose the person I'm attached to. Or I must protect the belief to which I am attached, with which I have identified myself. Therefore, I'll fight you. Right? So I see where there is identification, however pleasurable it is, there is also in it pain. No? So I can't keep one and discard the other. They both go together. Do you see this? When you see this, are you attached? Have you identified yourself with a person, with a property? When there is no identification, no attachment, what takes place in the mind? You got rid of another burden, haven't you? The mind says, all right, I've lived in a kind of fantasy, in a myth, which has given me tremendous pleasure also. It's given me a great deal of pain. So, then it has no identification. Then what takes place? You don't know it. Don't invent it. Don't speculate about it. So your only concern is with identification, with attachment, not what happens afterwards. Then you are dealing with facts, and that will give you tremendous vitality.